This is a Fox News alert now, awaiting brand new reaction from lawmakers and the Trump team as the House gets ready to vote on two immigration bills today. Brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Bill Hemmer. How you doing?
Good morning, Bill Hemmer. Happy Thursday. I'm Sandra Smith. All this coming after the president took executive action to fix the crisis at the border. And after he defended his immigration policies at a raucous rally in Minnesota last night, the president vowing to stick to his guns on his signature issue.
President Trump making a move to stop his administration from continuing to split children and parents.
With crisis management President Trump style, the president signed an executive order. His rare turnaround comes amid the growing outcry, now including the Pope, over a situation many called inhumane.
We're keeping families together. We have zero tolerance for people that enter our country illegally.
It's highly questionable whether this executive order will even go into effect.
The president still insisting that Congress act quickly to fix immigration laws.
We still have to maintain toughness or our country will be overrun.
We need to step up and do our job.
There is intense pressure on House Republican leadership to see if they can deliver 218 yes votes on one or more of these two bills.
Congress is having their own problems finding a compromise. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan was caught on camera having a tense moment with the leader of the Freedom Caucus, Representative Mark Meadows.
The question will be, do people want to play politics or do they want to put people before politics?
Moving parts on this story already. Today, I'm going to bring in our America's Newsroom A-team. Shelby Holliday, video reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Welcome. He is one in a million. He's Juan Williams. Fox News political analyst, co-host of The Five. Nice to see you, sir.
Good morning.
And back for a double dose. This week, Maria Bartiromo, anchor of Mornings with Maria on the Fox Business Network and Sunday Morning Futures here on the Fox News Channel. Welcome.
Good morning, A-team.
Those introductions are like resumes, aren't they? They're going to pass it. It's a real iffy deal today.
It is, because you've got division within the Republican Party. So it's not just the Democrats who are pushing against this. You've got real division in terms of these bills. Look, I think the House wants to pass something, and I think we will see something out of the House. But where it goes from there is really
Kathy McMorris Rogers
unknown.
This morning with Bill seemed pretty iffy. It was a maybe from her.
She didn't commit to anything.
She didn't commit to anything. But Adam Kinzinger seemed to say it was the compromise bill that has the likelihood of
That's
passing.
what everybody's looking at. And, the order yesterday is seen by most people as a temporary order. There's a settlement from 1997 that basically prevents families from being held together. Kids can't be held in detention for more than 20 days. So they really have to change this law. The question is, how will they change it? And will they give President Trump some of the things he wants? Funding for the border wall is a big key, obviously, and that's something Democrats don't want to give him. So we'll see where they end up.
And through this all, the president's making it very clear that border security is still his priority.
What do you think, amigo?
His strength. I think what he has emphasized throughout, what he emphasized when he signed the bill, what he emphasized last night in Duluth, Minnesota, before a raucous crowd, was that he remained strong, that it should not be taken as him having somehow retreated on the immigration issue. But the problem is that it's not just about Donald Trump, that you come before the Congress, especially as Maria was saying. You look inside those caucuses and the Freedom Caucus, you saw Meadows gesturing towards McCarthy in a way towards Ryan in a way to say, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. You know what? We have principles in terms of what the president promised and what we've told our voters, and we're going to hold to it. And that base, that hard right base, remember, defeated immigration reform in 2006. It defeated immigration reform in 2013 when there was the Gang of Six in the Senate. And I'm not sure that even if it gets out of the House, it has much of a chance in the Senate.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich, the former speaker, was on Fox and Friends this morning, basically talking about, and what we have seen, Democratic outrage following the president's executive order. Here's what Gingrich had to say.
You see this,
and the emotional answer is simple, but the emotional answer may not be right. The president, faced with a Congress which doesn't seem to be functional, has issued an executive order to stop the most immediate problem, which was taking children away from their families. So that's no longer going to be the excuse for Democratic outrage.
Well, that was on with Brett last night on Special Report, but still, Maria?
Yeah, no, he was on with me as well this morning. And one thing that came across was that you say this is not about Donald Trump. For the skeptics of the Trump presidency, it is about Donald Trump. And I think that they're trying to find something to make sure that this is going to be the issue that stops the Republicans from gaining more seats in the November elections. I do think that in some cases, for the left, this is all about Donald Trump. It's not necessarily about the children, but about getting something on the president that they could actually use to move forward with impeachment.
Oh, gosh, boy, I think that's way off. But I mean, what you get is a situation where even before Donald Trump was president, immigration was a hot issue. I think it's a hotter issue now going into the midterms. I think the president plans to push that button heavily. Some of his language has been just awful, you know, the infestation.
Maybe there's a better question here then. What's the expense if you don't pass something?
Well, it could hurt you because, remember, the midterms are going to be determined by white suburban women in swing districts that in some cases...
Is immigration at the forefront of what they're voting on?
That's what they're hoping.
These are more economic issues.
Oh, I think in many ways President Trump has made it at the he's put it at the forefront. According to new polls, there's a spike in interest among both Republicans and Democrats on immigration. It's something they've been talking about for months. They've been trying to solve DACA. They've been trying to figure out how to get stronger, tougher enforcement at the border, but also solve the problem that we've had that's plagued president after president, Democrats and Republicans.
The only thing
it's just not an easy issue.
This is a president who can change the topic, within an hour.
Well, I mean, this president likes to...
Today, immigration's a big deal, but last week, North Korea was a big deal.
Yeah, but
I don't know what's going to be a big deal in 5 months.
It's going to be a big deal about pocketbook issues come November. It's going to be a big deal that we're seeing an economy growing 3%, that we're seeing an economy producing jobs, and that we're seeing African-American unemployment at an all-time low. I think the economy typically does drive voters, and that is going to be the issue. No doubt, healthcare, immigration are going to be up there, but we're in June. I don't know that this is going to be the issues at hand come November.
Summertime.
It's going to be about the
Everybody's going to go away for a little while.
Living's easy, kid.
Yeah, but I tell you, the political strategists in Washington, especially on the Republican side, have identified that the tax cut is not working. It hasn't worked in the recent elections to move the dial for Republicans. So
but it is
they're going back to the hot buttons issues. And when you look at those, the number one hot button right now, immigration. So they got to find a way to, because at the moment, Republicans have taken, the president taken a hit on this in terms of public opinion. They've got to reconfigure it and find a way to regain the upper hand.
I still think he can change the conversation with
this news cycle is completely unpredictable, and it's impossible to predict too. Natural disasters, hopefully no terrorist attacks, but yeah, we're in June.
How about this category? Nancy Pelosi tweets this: real Donald Trump's executive order seeks to replace one form of child abuse with another. Every child is entitled to basic human rights, and said the president is paving the way for the long-term incarceration of families. How about that for a heavy hand, Juan?
I think the Democrats are going to come hard on this. They feel as if right now, if you look at the public opinion polls, even among Republicans, I think it's 39-34 oppose the idea of separating children from their parents. So, as I said before, women in particular touched by this issue, and it could prove determinative because it's like 2/3 of independent voters, so critical in the midterms, oppose this policy.
One more thing here. Peter Fonda is in a bit of hot water. He sent an apology and an apology for the following tweet. Here it is. We should rip Barron Trump from his mother's arms and put him in a cage with pedophiles and see if mother will stand up against a giant blank hole she is married to. He has since apologized, said it was inappropriate. He's got a movie coming out. To me, it sparks more than just looking for attention.
No, inappropriate is an understatement here. I mean, look, I think he has Trump derangement syndrome again. I mean, I think people are so unnerved by Donald Trump, certainly on the left and in Hollywood, that they're losing their minds in terms of how they tweet and what they talk about. I mean, it's an awful tweet. He apologized, but I think people are remembering this stuff.
I just think it's amazing how many problems Twitter has caused people in the era.
No, Twitter's not causing that problem. No. Let's be clear. Peter Fonda caused that problem.
It's offensive what he said. I mean, to me, it's like, people think that they can match the funniest kid on the block or the bully on the block or low language used sometimes by the president. And I think it's taking us in a bad place. I don't like it.
His
Totally
apology,
agree.
I immediately regretted it, sincerely apologize to the family for what I said and any hurt words I may have caused. All right, there it is. I tweeted something highly inappropriate and vulgar about the president and his family in response to the devastating images I was seeing on television. Like many Americans, I'm very impassioned and distraught over the situation with children separated from their families at the border, but I went way too far. It was wrong and I should not have done it. I immediately regretted it and sincerely apologize to the family for what I said and any hurt words that may have
Sadly,
caused.
Barron's of an age where he can see that, read that. Everyone around him can. The First Lady took issue, obviously, and has responded to that. And now Secret Service is actually responding.
And well, they should.
Yeah.
We still haven't heard the apology from Robert De Niro, by the way. That guy's completely
That ain't
lost.
coming.
He's lost.
That ain't going to happen.
More Trump duration.
You know that De Niro's been talking in this city for a year and a half. Every time he gets on stage, takes a chance
I know.
to throw a target or throw a barb toward the president's way.
Absolutely.
This was nothing new.
No.
And when they invited him on stage to come for the Tony Awards, they had to know what they were in for
But you know what?
before he even walked out on stage.
He's losing fans, Bill. People just.
You think
nobody
he cares?
likes that. On both sides of the aisle, nobody likes this kinds of language toward anybody.
You talking to me?
Exactly. Yeah.
You got it, right? You got it.
I love it. I love it. My movie file friend.
You got it. All right, you guys, stand by here. We're going to get to a lot more in a moment here as we continue to go forward here with
Anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok risking the wrath of Congress. So will he actually testify as he promised or be slapped with a subpoena? Ultimately, the A-team will be back on that. Plus, there is this.
I think it'll be hard because we're in an even-numbered year and we're getting closer and closer to an election. And as I said, I think that for the Democrats, they always view this as a political issue, a wedge issue that they can use in an election season, which is unfortunate because this is an issue that cries out for a solution.
Top Republican Senator John Thune attacking Democrats for using immigration issues to score political points for the midterms. He joins us live to talk about that. Do not move. We're coming right back after this.
What the president did yesterday is to try to make clear that what we don't need to do as Americans is pit the enforcement of law against our humanitarian ideas. So we need to do both at the same time. So what he tried to do is enable us to do that until Congress acts. But I want to be very clear on this. Congress has the authority and responsibility to make the law of the land and to fix the immigration system. There is a patchwork of laws. There's a patchwork of court cases. We have done everything that we can do within the executive branch to both secure our borders, uphold our ideals, and protect our communities. But we need Congress to act.
Well, that was Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen just moments ago commenting on President Trump's executive order from yesterday to end the separation of families stopped at the border and keep children with their detained parents. The House is considering 2 immigration bills on the floor today. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans are moving ahead with their own bill seeking a compromise, which we've heard a lot about this morning. The chances of either of them passing, we'll see. And then what happens in the Senate, and what's the president willing to sign?
We got a long way to go, right? I mean, 2 nights ago, today's Thursday. It was Tuesday night where the president went up to Capitol Hill and they had that closed-door meeting for about an hour. A little bit of leaks here and there about what was said regarding immigration, but that was primarily what that trip to the Hill was all about. You know, to get on the same page regarding what the president would sign and what Congress can pass. But right now, we really don't know what that is.
And the president very firm on border security. That is his top priority. And Kirstjen Nielsen, hearing from her just a few moments ago, certainly she has been responding to all the criticisms of this enforcement at the border. To see where this goes this week, what a moment this is, finally, in the immigration debate, to have these 2 bills go to the House floor. Democrats still putting up a big fight, though, however.
Yes, and there are 4 pillars the president talked about for some time. He wants the wall, Sandra. Right? He wants the $25 billion. He said last night when he was at that rally in Duluth, Minnesota, that I think, what was the quote, $1.6 billion already going toward the construction of a wall or fencing. And in addition to that, he wants to end change migration. He wants to end the visa lottery. And he wants to figure out the DACA issue. And those are his 4 pillars that he wants to see in a bill.
Newt Gingrich, he has been responding to a lot of this last night. He was on Special Report, and he is making the point that Democrats still really are getting in the way of something getting done. Listen to this.
He signed an executive order to make sure children are not separated from their parents. They will now implement that. He has said correctly the Congress ought to change the law. After all, it's a law passed by Congress which caused this mess, plus 2 judicial decisions. The Congress ought to pass a law, but you already have Senator Schumer on the Democratic side basically saying he doesn't want to pass a law. He really worries about the children unless it means Donald Trump would win, at which point he doesn't worry about the children because he can't let Trump win. I think this will, in the end, remind people how irresponsible and how intellectually dishonest the Democrats have become.
We had the executive order that was signed yesterday afternoon, and that could be challenged in the courts. What John Thune is saying, though, it would be helpful to codify a lot of this stuff to eliminate the uncertainty, the potential legal challenges, and there may be a legal challenge. That senator is with us now. John Thune from South Dakota, chairman of both the Senate Republican Conference, Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. Senator, how you doing? And welcome to our program.
Always nice to be with you.
What can Republicans pass on immigration?
Good question. I guess we'll find out today in the House. But I think that if what we ought to be able to pass, if nothing else, Bill, on the Senate, is something that does codify the president's executive order so we can address this issue of keeping families together. If the Democrats are sincere that they want to see that happen, they would be willing to work with us to fashion a solution to at least address that issue. The broader immigration debate, parts of which are being addressed in the House legislation today, and we had that debate in the Senate a few months back. Nothing passed. We spent a week on the floor. People had an opportunity to offer amendments, and we couldn't get a consensus. But that doesn't mean if the House is able to pass something and they send it to the Senate that we wouldn't look at it. We'll certainly take a look at it and see if it's something we can pass and that the president would sign.
Senator, what's the mood there this morning? This has been a huge week, and we know things got tense on the House floor, and this has been a debate that has spread across the country. Emotions are high. What do you sense is the mood around there this morning?
I think the mood here, Sandra, is one of, at least among our conference, is we need to solve this. We need to get something in place that addresses this issue of allowing families to stay together, but we also need to address the issue of enforcing our laws. I mean, this is an issue, and what we're seeing today is a byproduct of a broken immigration system that has been crying out for a solution for a long time. And one of the solutions, obviously, to that is to build the wall, build the border wall, and to prevent people from coming into this country illegally. And the Democrats have been unwilling to do that. They consistently talk about immigration reform, but to them that means, at least in this current circumstance that we're talking about, catch and release. They're very much in favor of an open borders policy, and we think the American people believe otherwise. I don't know if I always hear it attributed to Ronald Reagan, but used to say that a country that can't control its borders can't control its destiny, and I think we have to get control of this situation, and that entails having the security at the border that's necessary to help address and solve the problem, and that's what the president's been asking for and what the Democrats have been unwilling to give him.
Well, you talk as if this is an opportunity, and you're probably right about that. But with an election less than 5 months away, do you feel the need to get something done? Or do you think you can fight to live another day if you let this moment pass?
Well, I think there's always another day, obviously, but every day that goes by and we don't fix the problem continues to worsen. I think the near-term issue here that we're dealing with just this week, that the president's executive order addressed yesterday, is something that there ought to be bipartisan agreement on in the House and the Senate to fix. And so my hope would be, at least, Bill, that as this issue is debated, that there would be a consensus, a bipartisan consensus, that we need to address this. My guess is, however, that because it is an even-numbered year, and Democrats always view this as a potent political weapon, that they will choose rather to have the issue than to have a solution. That would be the way I would predict it would come out.
President Trump is asking a question on Twitter a short time ago this morning that perhaps Senator Thune you can address. He says, what is the purpose of the House doing good immigration bills when you need 9 votes by Democrats in the Senate? And the Dems are only looking to obstruct, which they feel is good for them in the midterms. Republicans must get rid of the stupid filibuster rule. It is killing you.
Well, the president's right about one point, and that is the Democrats' goal is to obstruct. I think they think it's to their political advantage as we head into the midterm elections. But you got to think about this the other way. If, God forbid, they were able to win the Senate in November, and they could pass whatever they want at 51 votes, we would have a very porous open borders immigration policy. So the 60-vote threshold protects Republicans more times historically than it does Democrats. But I understand his frustration. We share it too. But it's why we need to have some Democrats who are willing to do the right thing for our country and not just the political thing in the middle of an election year.
We have a reverse, of course, of what the federal position is now about keeping families together and at what point, how we do that. Do you think what you went through over the past week was a big blow to you and others in your party? Was it a blow to the president? How do you sort through that now?
No, I don't think so, Bill, because the president responded. And like I said, I mean, I think as a zero tolerance policy, and the president made it very clear, and this shouldn't surprise anybody, he ran his campaign on enforcing our laws and securing our borders and dealing with the issue of sort of runaway illegal immigration. And so in his attempts to do that, obviously, this was something that came out of it, but which he quickly addressed. And we were very quick to recognize it as well and to acknowledge that we've got to have a policy that enforces our laws, but that also allows families to stay together. And so there was consensus up here to do that. The president stepped in and I think did the right thing. And so I don't know. This is something that I don't think has any lasting effect.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are trying to predict what is next in this battle. Maybe you could do that for us.
Well, I think in the near term, what my hope would be, the next step in the battle, Sandra, is let's codify the president's executive order so we don't have to go to court and worry about what's going to happen in the way of litigation that creates more uncertainty around this issue. The Flores settlement decision back in 1997 sort of governs the way this issue can be treated now, and it seems to me at least that Congress, the only way that you can change that or get away from the uncertainty around this issue is for Congress to act. So the president, I think, did the right thing and addressed it in the near term. It's up to us now to try and fix this long term. So and I hope there'll be Democrats that are willing to do that.
Yeah, you think you can get enough votes to codify the executive order? That's about as much ground as you have given so far.
We'll see. I mean, like I said, there's going to be a real test of whether the Democrats are serious about trying to solve this issue and solve a problem, or whether they would rather have the political issue. And I think that's going to be, we'll find out here soon enough.
When's the last time you talked to the president, Senator?
I haven't talked to him this week.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah, just
but he stays in constant contact with us, as you know, Sandra, through his Twitter account.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is a big week indeed, sir, and we thank you for your time, Senator.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You bet. John Thune. President Trump teeing off on this. FBI agent Peter Strzok amid new fallout that the scathing DOJ watchdog report, America's A-Team is back for round 2 on that. Also coming up here.
Looking forward to that. The battle of the box office playing out at a theater near you as one of the country's biggest chains launches a new ticket program. Will it give you more bang for your buck? It's getting expensive to go to the movies these days. Charles Payne is here to break it all down. Well, you might want to get your online shopping done soon because the Supreme Court ruling this morning that states can collect sales tax on certain purchases on the internet. That ruling has just come in. The Supreme Court ruled that states can begin collecting sales tax for some out-of-state purchases. This really is something. Maria Bartiromo is here on our A-team with us, and you could weigh in on this. They found in a 5-4 majority that the current rules are unsound and incorrect. And you're making the point that this was all decided before the digital age. It was time for a change here?
It was, because the initial law said that you couldn't apply sales tax unless you had a physical building in that same state. So it was, online versus brick and mortar. But that was when people thought that online shopping and online sales in particular were really minimal versus in-store purchases. But things have exploded. I mean, you see online now, you even have in-store retailers having online branches. So at this point, it's really hard to say that internet shopping, online shopping, is a much smaller volume than in-store shopping.
That's a tough argument to make.
Exactly.
Right, Shelby?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, especially here in New York, we buy everything online. States were arguing that they were losing money for things like education and infrastructure. They weren't getting the sales tax they typically would. So this is seen as a big victory for states. And yes, Maria's right. Your items are about to get a little more expensive.
There's another decision that we're waiting on. Don't know if it'll come today or not, but this is the whole union deal between 22 states. It affects millions of Americans, so we'll hold off on that. Last night in Duluth, the president's going right at Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, teeing up what could be a really interesting hearing if it happens. Testimony on the Hill here from Duluth last night. The president on that.
Peter Strzok and his lover, Lisa Page. I don't think their wife and husband are too happy about that. What do you think? What do you think? I don't think so. No, but have you been seeing this whole scam? Do you believe what you're seeing? How, no matter what she did, no matter how many crimes she committed, which were numerous, they wanted her to be innocent. With me, nothing. No collusion, no nothing. And they just wanted to take all of us. They wanted to put us in trouble. And it's not working too well, I'll tell you. Disgusting.
I don't think that was on prompter, was it?
I think that was hard.
Whoa! Hey, Juan, how about that line? His wife and her husband. Stinger.
Oh, I just can't believe. I mean, we go to such low levels, so personal. Everything is like ad hominem from coming from this president. Yesterday, he's also talking about the elite and why they don't consider him elite, that he has a nicer apartment. And he's saying that the media
I don't think that was in prompter either.
No, actually, I'm saying so much of this bill, the genius of Donald Trump is it comes from the heart. People sense this is who he is. He's transparent. He's authentic. He says the media is terrible, so he gets them to say that one of our competitors sucks. He gets them to say lock her up about Hillary Clinton. He's run. It was like a throwback to the campaign.
Look, I got to push back here. I mean, the fact is Donald Trump did not create those texts from Peter Strzok. It's really Peter Strzok who has gone as low as he can, and the president is actually responding to this. Peter Strzok took over the so-called Trump Russia collusion investigation on July 31, 2016. 8 days later, he writes a text to the girlfriend, says, "We will stop him from becoming president." I mean, if that is not evidence enough that he was actually using his political bias to actually make decisions and change an election. I don't know what is.
Well, let me just say that the Inspector General of the United States, Michael Horowitz, said there was no evidence of bias in the way
So it gives the president a huge platform and a lot of airtime to go out, attack the FBI, possibly get ahead of things if he can. if there are things to get ahead of. And
now what we all want to know is, are
everyone
we
at
going
the
to see
FBI is
him
mad at Peter Strzok now.
Publicly testify? Will he sit down before either or both of these committees and answer questions under oath?
And we learned that from your news-breaking interview just the other night when you spoke with Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy. And it looks like they both believe he's going to testify next week. That was an incredible interview, Sandra. And what we heard from both these chairmen of these oversight committees is that they want him to answer some questions as a result of these texts. Peter Strzok is the one person within the FBI who's given us this window into the incredible amount of animus that was for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and to hear him actually sit down and answer questions, that could really change this story, Juan.
Yeah, the interesting thing is he says he wants to testify, so it's not as if...
Well, he hasn't committed yet.
No, but he says...
we're waiting to hear from him.
Right, but he says he wants to do it. Goodlatte says if we don't hear from him, we'll have a subpoena for him. So
you think he should? I mean, Mike McKay's was with us last hour, the former Attorney General. He said he's my client. I'm not letting him talk.
But I think Peter Strzok feels personally under assault here and wants to respond.
Oh, he said so much already.
Well, his lawyer is saying, his lawyer is defending him. Trump called him a sick loser. His lawyer is saying my client is a patriot. He wants to speak, maybe in the interest of the FBI and in defense of an agency he's worked for a long time. He does owe
what the IG reports. About Trump voters. Can we talk about that for a second? Uneducated, stupid, lazy. They want Trump to give them a job.
What I just said. And I think they're right. I mean, the problem is, as Shelby, as Maria said, that if you're sitting here in the public, and right now we are such a polarized nation, either side you say, hey,